Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited today to speak with the associate head fencing coach at Notre Dame, Cedric Loiseau. Cedric, how are you today?
I'm good, Brian. Thanks. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you for taking some time to speak with me.
Absolutely. I think it's exciting. I'm already ready to go with the questions. So uh, that's a good day for us.
Yes, sir. Well, let's get right into it. So I always like to start with your personal fencing journey, how you were exposed to the sport, your competitive career, things like that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I started fencing when I was 5 years old. My mom got me into it because I spent a lot of time playing with épées and swords in the yard. So she just got a friend of hers saying, "Hey, why don't you put the kid in fencing?" So just brought me to the first fencing club she found, and starting then, I just never stopped. That's pretty much it. So.
Was your
Uh,
mom a fencer?
Oh, not at all. No,
Okay.
no one in the family, no one knew about fencing. That's a very common thing, I believe, with many fencers. They start with very odd ways, so either your pediatrician tell your kid is not very coordinated, right? And they send you to fencing or whatever reason it is. But that was mine, just very random. Got to start the sport, like I said, at age 5. And it's been a blast. It's been a blast for me.
That's awesome. So you started very early.
Yeah.
Did you start like competing right away when you got old enough, or did you just stick with like club fencing at first?
No, I mean, I competed just a couple of months after I started, actually. But I started with foil. I fenced foil for many years first, mostly because that's a requirement in France. You cannot start with épée. You have to start with a conventional weapon, so saber or foil. Where I started, there was no saber. I was actually born in a small French island off the coast of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. So it's a very tiny rock in the ocean. So was foil and épée. So I started foil, competed pretty soon after that, and around the age of 12, I started to fence épée as well. So I kept both foil and épée. And I started to get exposed to national events, going to some camps in France, a couple of tournaments, which those were still very rare because you have to imagine that it's about 11, 12 hours flight to go back to France. So there was like big trips for us.
Yeah.
So after that, I mean, when I started épée, that's definitely what my preference was. So I focused a little more on this, kept both weapons until national championships, Y14. I got offered a spot in the national training center. So my parents let me go at age 14, leave the family, leave the island, and go to France to train. And at the time, it was only very few cadets getting there. There were only 3 of us, actually. Others were like more experienced fencer. We had people like Fabrice Janet, for example, that was still training there at that time. In my time there, we fenced with Ulrich Roberi, with a lot of the guys that we found later on in the INSEP, in the Olympic Center. So
Yeah. Fabrice Genet, I haven't heard that name in a long time, but I remember my college coach, Yefim Litvin, was very much, a fan of his and would play some of his footage and things like that. So that's awesome to know that you had that connection there. So can you speak a little bit more about that? Just that's a very unique experience to be able to, leave your family and go train at such a young age, 14, you said 14, 15.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that experience and I guess what the culture of fencing is like in France versus, somewhere else like the US?
Yeah, sure. Well, first, as you said, so I left very early. So I was in training center. It was very much kind of experience we actually find in college, right? So you stay in the dorm, you go to school, you go to train, and repeat over and over again. To me personally, it was absolutely exciting. I mean, I spent six years at that point, just doing that every single day. I never regretted it. I never wished to do anything else. It was just terrific, really challenging, but very exciting. Now the culture, I think the big difference I found between US and France is very much in the coaching approach. In the US, when you start fencing, you start private lessons, right? Very, very early on, you get to private lessons. While France, most of the time, you don't get private lessons until much later. You start with group classes, and coaches start to give you a lesson if you become good enough or if you're involved enough. It's not just about being a good fencer, but involved enough. But it's very reversed, which for a long time I also believe that was the difference between American fencers. We could see them in cadets, mostly cadets, even junior and later on, but cadets to be extremely strong, right? Every weapon you'd see American going to the European circuits, right, and get trusting the order, the first the podiums, and I think that was due to them starting later, because in average we have many fencers in the US starting around 10 years old, right? Starting age 6, 7 in France is very common. But I think they're taking so many lessons. They get very sounded technically very quickly, which I think helps make a huge difference. That again, also because the level of the coaches is also tremendous in the US. I mean, it's not about one of the country being better. I think great coaches are on both sides. I just think that intensity, Americans are able to train harder and much sooner than in France. The culture of sport, I think what helped American fencing was the culture of sport in the US that we don't find as strong back in France. If I go a little bit off track, I mean, Evan Fournier, he's a basketball player, right? He's back to New York Knicks for the coming season. Was absolutely furious about one of the French Ministry for Education, saying that this medal of the French team at the Olympics was due to PE classes in France. And he went back saying, well, there's no tradition of sport in our country, and certainly not in schools. So, which I think is very true personally. And I think that the US has such an incredible culture of sport that did help the fencing, I believe. So a big difference for me was that we start much sooner in France. It's much more of classes, group classes, individual lessons come a little later. US is not the opposite, because obviously you have group classes right away, but individual lessons come very early.
Okay. That's very interesting to hear that perspective. I think like the perception growing up in the US and starting fencing at a later age, the perception for me was always like, you guys started so much earlier and had that advantage, but hearing your perspective on it makes a lot of sense as well, with getting more personalized lessons, you know, earlier on in the US, to kind of balance that out, divide out.
Yeah, and the time and over training that people can put into it. I mean, not all the kids do it, but I see quite often kids, they're still in high school and they have trainers, or, you know, they do conditioning and stuff like this that very often in France, you don't find nearly as much. So that also makes a difference.
Well, it paid off for you because you had some tremendous success nationally, internationally. I mean, the list of your accomplishments is pretty extensive. Can you talk about maybe some of your most memorable achievements in competition?
Sure. I mean, they were not all that incredible, really, I think, but it was, I had a good time. I think I really enjoyed the whole journey, the process, really. I know it sounded all cliche, but I really did. Results came along. They were, I guess, decent. Very, like, I guess, like one of the big memories was obviously winning European championships with the team event, with teammates like Gauthier Grumier and Bastien Sicot. That is not as known, but he actually won senior European championships individually. So he's a tremendous fencer, a great friend of mine, and my roommate of the time, Mathieu Canu. So that was a great moment. That was, but again, I think, you know, when you're a competitor, you want to win, right? And as soon as you win, it's pretty much over, or at least that's how it feels to me. It's awesome, enjoy it, and then you just want to show everyone that it's not a fluke, so you want to go again. So that certainly was a great moment to me. However, I think I have a big amount, of like memories, but they're not just like the result. They're just like some bouts, some touches, some moment that you come back, those kind of things. But yeah, definitely I leave it as European Championships, because having the national anthem playing for you, somehow that's how you take it as an athlete, right? When you win a title, you feel that it's partially for you at least, and that's very much what I keep in mind. The second biggest was to me when I was still a cadet and fencing the Monarchs, the Grand Prix in France, in Paris. And I was fortunate enough, I guess, to qualify for the second day, made it to the top 32. And I was not doing so hot again, this guy from Belarus. And having all the crowd around just cheering and pushing for me, that was something very exciting. That's a big moment. However, I still lost that bout. I guess I had to finish at some point, but like I said, it's not always about the win, even though, like, of course we don't want to lose, right? But just the feel of being in the middle, like an arena, right? And everyone is pushing for you. They really just want you to win. This is not shared. The other guy should be losing, and it really helped me to come back. Didn't work out at the end, but was a great moment. So to me, these two moments are really in my mind, more just because of the way I felt at the moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And again, those are experiences that, not a lot of people, a lot of fencers get to have. So to be able to compete at such a high level, again, kudos to you. I want to talk a little bit about your transition into coaching, going from, a competitive fencer, a very successful competitive fencer. When did you decide to make that transition? What did you find challenging maybe about it starting out? What was that experience like for you?
Well, so to me, this came actually quite early, as when I was leaving the training center, I had the opportunity to go to INSEP, to the Olympic Center, which obviously, if I left my island at age 14, I mean, that definitely was my goal, right? And interestingly enough, when the opportunity came to me, I took a lot of time to think about it, and finally decided not to proceed, because I've seen how the system was working in France. As much as I loved being there and compete, I also realized that what they call that a double project in France, being an athlete and a student at the same time, right? And it's very hard in France, or in general in Europe. You kind of have to pick one really to dominate the other one. And let's say that the way they kept up with the academics wasn't the best. And I could sense that I probably would not push myself as hard in school that I would push myself in fencing. And I guess I was lucky enough to realize that. And I figured that probably I should not stop fencing at age 35 or something like this and have nothing in my hands to work. So I decided to decline that offer, and just focus on the career. And I right away got an option to start coaching in the fencing club close to the training center. It's actually in Châlons-en-Champagne, which we use actually to host the cadet international circuit. We actually organized the very first one, which was interesting. But yeah, I decided to start coaching like this, and very rapidly. I mean, my goal was then, okay, if I do this, I really want to get into training and then train elite athlete as well. So this transition for me was, I would say, frankly speaking, fairly easy. I think, even though it was still very challenging, many things. I mean, giving your first lesson is quite something. It's I still remember the feeling. I'm not sure if it's my very first lesson, but I remember the first few lessons I've been giving is, darn, this is it's not that easy. You have to feel how to do, what to do, and make sense, right? So, but transition was fairly easy. I was in a great club. Shannon is an incredible club. I actually won the European Club Championship 3 years in a row. Like I was saying, with Fabrice Janet, Jérôme Janet, Jean-Michel Lucenay. So that was the national team that actually won the Olympic, right? And this was the team in the club in Chalon. So that was a great experience. And I started with young kids and competitors. We brought Yannick Borel in the club also, fenced the team together actually, because I kept fencing when I started to coach. So I was fencing the team with Yannick Borel and Alex Fava, that is also in the Olympic Center. So it was a fun transition. I kept fencing just for the club, only the team event and national events, and put myself into the coaching. I had a couple clinics working with, because the federation works like this. They have training camps for people that want to become coaches. You have to take an exam at the end, sanctioned by the government. So that was a fun experience for me. Started right in the club, so working directly with the real public, right? So I worked with very young kids. I worked with disabled kids. I worked with what we call the School of the Second Chance, so which is more like young adults that sometimes would sleep in jail and get out in the morning. Some were very close to get in jail. So that was a project to have them other activities. I worked with just schools and all kind of fencers afterwards. So this really gave me a very big picture of what fencing was. I think kept my feet on ground also. That was incredible experience to me. And while doing so, I stayed focused on my first idea of train elite fencers. So I was also coaching at the National Training Center with the juniors. So I would go there. That's actually where I met Yannick Borel or Alex Fava, or some of those guys that we still see now. So that's also, I really had a big mix right from the start with elite fencing and just beginners and different kind of publics.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can relate to what you're saying about coaching being a very different experience. I coached briefly at my old high school, and it's almost like trying to like put on your clothes inside out, or like trying to do something, build something, backwards. It's very, you have to really think about how the fencer is, their body language is communicating with yours in a different way than if you were competing. It was very interesting. So I agree with what you said about it being a very new experience.
Yeah, it is. And it is humbling too sometimes, figure like, because unless you stay in your comfort zone, but you get to try some stuff, right? Sometime. And there are moments that it feels like glory to you, and there are moments that doesn't feel like that at all, and just have to move forward and try something different. But it's a great job, really. I enjoy that. Like you said, goal is try to find how to deliver the message to the fencer, right? Because I always say that, but no matter how true I can be, or how right I can be, I guess, but if they don't understand what I'm saying, whether it's because of my accent or just because they don't have a clue of what it is, it doesn't work. So you have to find a way to get to the athlete to understand exactly the point of your action. And if they disagree, either prove them or just find something different.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how you landed at Notre Dame. And you said you wanted to coach elite athletes, and your results with the athletes at Notre Dame have been proof of that. You've had really some great success with some champions, and a lot of medal winners at University of Notre Dame. So let's talk a little bit about how you got there and what your experience there has been like.
Well, I guess just like you start fencing, it was very random. We literally we were in France with my wife, and we were actually about to leave France and go back to Reunion Island because I kind of wanted to change. And then we just heard about that school that was looking for an epic coach and in the US, and they were, oh, Notre Dame. So first I know Notre Dame because I actually fenced World Championships in 2000 in South Bend. So I remember visiting Notre Dame. So like, oh, okay, so why not? I mean, I could try. So I got an interview with Janusz Bednarski, that he was the head coach at the time. Leary spent, I think, 5 or 10 minutes with him. And I thought, okay, that's it. And so yeah, we'd fly you in and you do interviews. So I came, had my interviews made with Gia is our head coach now. He was the associate head coach at the time. And here the guy like jumping around and being super friendly and really nice, and just smart guy. He fed me right away. Okay, so I think, to be fair, he had an advantage there already. But we had a great time. Get my interviews, worked out pretty well, and got the job. So I just came here, idea to say, hey, let's go. I do the season. Worst come to worst, we go back. I mean, who cares? And if it works well, then we see. I never had intention to go to the US or live in the US. I've always been more driven by doing what I want to do, the way I want to do. And that's exactly what it was. I mean, coming here, and you know that, but like a college program is, you have your group of athletes, you see them every day, work with them every day. And as much as I enjoy being in the club, having a variety of publics, that's really what I like to do. I mean, I've been here for 9 years, and it really feels like it's been 3 years, frankly speaking, because it forces you to find new things to do, to always question what you're doing, to make sure that you don't fall into too big of a routine, because if then, I mean, everyone gets bored and it doesn't work very well. So really very kind of random way to get to Notre Dame, but still works out very well. I mean, I'm still here, so I guess they're satisfied enough for now. So
it seems like it's working out great for you and for Notre Dame as well. Let me ask you, just backtracking a little bit, you mentioned kind of how you made the decision to not solely focus on fencing at some point in your career and focus more on, coaching and education. Is there a path in France, I guess specifically, to like a professional level fencer? Is that something that exists? A professional circuit?
No, not at all. It's just like here. It's just the last step is you go to Olympic Center. Okay. That's what it is. You go to the Olympic Center. That's where all the guys going to the Olympics, that's where they're training. That's the very last step. So there's no professional way. Actually, matter of fact, the funny thing is, French fencer would often look at the American fencer thinking that they are professional, that they have a easier way to train sometimes, and it's very funny, because seeing the other side, it's not any easier for American fencers to actually train. I mean, it's very challenging. The country is so big anyway. It's hard to use a central structure like OTC, for example, to train, because people need to make a living for most of them. So it's hard. But no, that's just you go to Olympic Center, and that's pretty much it. But you have to find what your career is going to be. So you have to do that at the same time.
Right. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about, more about your experience in Notre Dame this past season. Obviously, presented some complications for everyone with COVID and quarantining. How did the team and the university approach that? And, what do you think were the ways you handled that best?
Well, I mean, really for us, and this is not consideration for winning a title or anything. It was a very, very good year for us. It's kind of odd to say that, but it was very hard and challenging for sure, but it was a great year. We took that year thinking, hey, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to even have a season. We don't know it's going to look like in a few months. And we took that position to lay down the plan to train just for the sake of getting better, being ready for whatever, whenever. Meaning, if we have NCAA, we'll be ready for it. If not, and there are world championships, we must be ready for these kids going there. Whatever it is, we're gonna train to become better, just like we should be doing. I have to admit, somehow, minus obviously all the complication for so many people. Okay, don't get me wrong, but just talking solely about the athletic side, it was a great experience, because we could finally, just take it all a step back and look, hey guys, remember, we just enjoy fencing. So no stress about, dang, this tournament is coming, I'm stressed out, I need to get better now. If we wanted to work some specific things with our athletes, there was no pressure of a time limit, say, hey, yeah, but November NAC is coming up, you have to be ready for that so you can go to the World Cup. So that was the approach we had. I think worked out decently well. Uh, Now, obviously, I mean, we got back to school, everyone being tested all the time, because obviously many were criticizing the fact that some school decided to go back to school, right, in person. I think the plan that was established by the school was very solid. Probably not perfect. I don't think anyone can brag about doing anything perfect in that pandemic, really, or this is foolish. But there was a solid structure. We had small groups at first. We had to divide the team in groups of 10, no more. We had them to really stick together most of the time, not to extend too much with other people, report any kind of symptoms right away, really trying to make the kids understand that anything could happen and anything could be a disaster very quickly. And I believe that our kids absolutely understood that they were lucky. They were lucky to have a shot at training, have a shot at being there and doing stuff when many people just cannot do anything. We fenced with masks all year long. We ran outside with masks for a good period of time. This was not easy, really, but they trained extremely well. I think that's what the best training we've ever had. Physically, our kids were in incredible shape. When we were at the end of the season fencing all across the board, I mean, physically, they were incredible. They never struggled physically. So that was a big part of it as well. So again, many challenges. Obviously, yes, we can say a good amount of kids got COVID, but in the end, they really got closer and tried to do everything to stay very close, protect the whole team from disaster. And this definitely wasn't easy. I mean, many other teams had their own problems as well. And, we also got lucky. I mean, we have to say that. It's not that we're geniuses, okay? We're not here. We cannot give a lecture and teach anyone else how to deal with COVID. We did whatever seemed to be common sense to us, to our specific situation. We were lucky also to have kids that wanted to do the same. And finally, we got lucky that it didn't prevent us from fencing NCAA. It did not, I mean, we did not go to SEC. Our trip has been canceled the day prior to leave for SEC. Was out of extreme precaution, and turned out that if it was a day earlier, we would have been actually going, because the medical staff decided, hey, just in case there's one more or two more, we should not be going. So we didn't go, and there was no other cases. So we only had 2 cases, but one back-to-back in 2 days. So it is what it is. We managed to go to NCAA. It went well for us. So on that side, it was terrific. Kids got that title, and it's theirs, really. So that's about it, really. Nothing crazy. We just had to go through. We decided to stay focused on our mission, and that's how it works for us, at least.
Yeah, I'll say it went well for you at the NCAA's for sure. The program won its 11th national championship. So congratulations to you and the staff on that accomplishment. That's huge. And I believe you also qualified 11 fencers for Tokyo. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes, and including 3 current fencers, which is also pretty big. Either because they're alums or taking a year off for that usually. But that was actually that was fun. Yeah, that was fun.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So let's talk about looking ahead into next season. It's quickly approaching. What are some goals for yourself or your staff? Some goals for the team? Any recruits you're excited about? Anything like that you want to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so in terms of team, I mean, obviously, for us, every year is about winning the title. This is we know that it's not going to happen all the time. We know that, but it's always in the back of our heads. Some years it's going to be a longer shot than others. I still think that this year is very possible. We have a good shot at it. We have a very small recruiting class, but it's a strong class. I mean, it's very strong. Very excited to. We're gonna have Jaden Williams coming in. She won the junior NAC in May. We're gonna have also Rebecca Candescu coming to fence with us. She's been, I think, twice in the finals in the World Championships for Romania. Nicole Postelnik. We have Alexandre Lacaze also for Sabre from France. Henry Nadir as well for Sabre. So it's very strong. It's very exciting. It's a small group, but it's gonna be quite intense. And we have all our returners. I mean, like, we're talking about NCAA program, how it went for us last year, but after NCAA, when the NAC started again, I mean, we had kids that did incredible. We had Amanda Piotrkowski, for example. She qualified for women's épée, so we qualified 3. I just made the decision to go with Miriam Grady and Kelly Xie from Hong Kong. She was actually in the Olympics. And Amanda didn't fence, even though she was fencing incredible. She came out of the COVID pandemic, I guess, to go to the next NAC and got back-to-back 2nd and 3rd place in Div 1, plus a couple top 16 and top 8. I mean, she was incredible. We had Jared Smith that in Sabre did an incredible job as well. First did great job in the NCAA, right? But ended to get a 2nd place also in the same NAC in April, losing to Daryl. So which really couldn't blame the kid for that. We had really, or Atara Greenbaum also, she got like incredible results after that. So really, she got like podium in the junior, top 16, Div 1. I mean, we are very excited, all these kids coming back. I mean, the boys side, we had Marcelo, got a 3rd place also. George Bivens got also to win one of the junior NAC in June. Even Garrett Spiteri got top 8. So it's incredible also to see how deep it could go for our kids. So strong class coming in. Kids from last year worked very hard. Again, those results for us after the restart of the season with the NACs, this is very exciting, really, because that's what we're saying. We were trying to be ready for whatever would come back as either NAC or World Cup. We didn't know, right? And they showed up. And it's great when you have a couple of kids winning, but it's even better when you have more and more of those kids showing up and getting the 16, the top 8 or podiums. So this is for us. It's definitely exciting. It's a strong group. Again, many other great teams are going to be in front of us this year. So are we going to win that? I don't know. Can we? Yes, we can. So we'll see. That's exactly what we're going to work for. So
yeah. Well, I'm excited to see how the next season, plays out. Obviously, you've had incredible success to this point. I'm sure it will continue. I also recently saw the announcement that Rolando Tucker-Leon was named a new assistant coach coming in for Foyle. So that could be exciting.
This is awesome. This is really, I mean, the staff we have here is unreal. It's great, really. It's fun. Like I said, I've been here for 9 years, and I'm never getting bored. It's fun because we have a great team, kids we work with. But we have a staff that get along extremely well. I'm pretty sure we all convinced that Rolando is going to be just a great fit to that group. So, it's like everything, right? I mean, get along with people you work with, and everything is going to be so much easier. We have a great connection. We are pretty much on the same page. We agree to disagree also. We communicate a lot. So yeah, we're very looking forward to that. That's gonna be great. The kids are gonna benefit tremendously from the guy. I mean, I hope he's not gonna mind that because it's gonna make him look old. But I remember when I was just a kid, I was still living in Réunion, and I was going to France for a camp. I was 14 years old or 13, and we went to the CIP, the Foil World Cup in Paris, right? And Rolando, I remember him when he was fencing. So,
wow.
he's quite much older than me, but that's yeah, I remember that. I mean, him and Gregory, they were. I remember watching. Wow, these two Cubans are absolutely unreal. He's a real deal. He's a great guy. He's very nice. I've met him a few times only, but you could sense that he's probably gonna be a great fit with us.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see how things play out. Again, Cedric, thank you for your time. I definitely appreciate the conversation. Learned a lot,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to seeing what Notre Dame does in the coming season.
Yeah, well, let's hope it's gonna be good. We just cannot get too lazy or too complacent. So we'll work as hard as we can, and so will other schools. We'll see. But thank you for reaching out.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.
Okay, sounds good.